Welcome to the Bigger Room Podcast. I'm your host, Jill Bender.
And I'm Cobian, and today we're going to talk about how to stop quitting everything that you start.
Like a podcast, right when you start it.
Like smoking.
Like smoking!
Jill, I think you're going to relate when I say, you ever start something super excited and then are no longer excited about it?
So many times, especially in the beginning of the online journey. So many times where I'm like, oh my God, that's a lot of money to me, but I'm in. I'm going to do it. I'm committed. I'm not going to stop until I succeed. And then, 6 months later, you're like, this is it. I know this is a lot of money too, but this one's going to work. The other one didn't work, but that's their fault, not mine. I am all in. Yes.
That's, if you're listening and you relate, it's because everyone goes through this. We all think exactly this. We go through the wave of so excited. Nothing can change your mind. This is it. You've decided what your future looks like. This is the one thing, and you're all in. And then weeks, months go by, or you're halfway through your goal and you're like, I'm ready to quit.
This is harder than I thought it was going to be. I didn't know I had to actually do something.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of important to just sit back and realize, what are those thoughts? Like you just mentioned, oh, I didn't know I had to work this hard or put the time in. So, which leads us to the first point of, why did you start that goal with? Like, why did that excite you? Why were you so committed to it in the beginning? Why? And we know this to be true, right, Jill? That motivation, you're not going to feel motivated every single day. You're not going to want to do the thing. But when you ask yourself why 3 times, for example, I want to make money online, but why? But why? But why? And once you ask yourself why 3 times, that's the reason that should keep you motivated.
So write it down, because you might forget when the little devil on your shoulder is convincing you that quitting is the best plan.
Yeah. And when you look at that, when it does get tough, when you do want to quit, there's a reason why you started. That reason's not going to go anywhere.
Which, really quick, Mel, which is why your reason why needs to be solid. It needs to be as solid as a rock. You cannot have a generic why. I want to make more money for my kids. Why? Why? Write down as many reasons as why as you can, but at least 3 of them, like Mel says. Because you need to have that solid why. Otherwise, when you do look back at it, you're going to be like, oh, that's not enough reason. Yeah. I could totally quit.
Absolutely. And be unapologetic about it. Don't be afraid about, because what ends up happening, like, let's say you want to write a book and you want it to be a bestseller. Like, I just want to write a book and put it out there and I want people to read my story. The ego mind's going to say, you can't do that. You think you're going to write a best-selling book? You can't do that. So be unapologetic to the point where you are afraid to write down what you truly want. Because what if you do want that at your core, right? Don't be afraid to write down the truth. The second thing here to keep in mind is building momentum. So what's something that helps you keep the momentum with showing up, Jill?
Well, money. Money, and it goes right back to my why. There's so many things that I want more money for, and I think it was always money, and then always, the things that I could get with money, because I definitely have deep dived into this so many times. I really write down at least 20 items that I think this money is going to change my life for. But over the last couple of years, since we've had that great deal of success and different levels, I do know that even though I really, really, really want the money, I also really want success in certain things. And that's something more new than it had been before. Like before, I was just, I have to succeed so I can get all this money. But now I have to succeed because I do want this money, but I also really want the success. I want to show that I can do these things.
I love that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And you're tying how momentum does go back to your why, right? So without that why, the momentum is not gonna happen. And I think with everything, once you do get the momentum into things and you start seeing some of the benefits of keeping that momentum, you're not gonna, sometimes you'll lose it, right? You'll lose it for a little bit, especially because things are always changing, especially as an entrepreneur. But what do? You find it again. You find it again how it's gonna work for you. Kind of like you had this little scare with TikTok shop going down for a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Can't do anything about it, right? I think that's life. You're gonna pivot. That's the great thing, right?
Yeah,
Like,
you know what?
hopefully you don't have to.
I wasn't really worried about TikTok going down, right? So many people are like, "Are you nervous?" And like, "No, I don't think it's going to go down. I don't think it's going to go down." And then all of a sudden it went down. I'm like, "Okay."
I was shocked too. I was like, "Oh shit, they took
I
it
was
down."
so shocked. Yeah. And I'm like, so Jill, like what's your plan now?" And then, people are messaging me and I'm like, okay, if I'm being honest with myself, I do have some kind of knot in my stomach currently that was not there before this happened. And I was
Yeah.
feeling really crappy. And I even woke up really early the next morning and I was laying there going, okay, what are you going to do? Like, we don't really have things set up to just survive with this happening. But I have good practices now that I have taught myself and learned and done many times. And so I opened up my phone and I opened up the notepad in there and I said, ways that you can start making money immediately, things that you can do right now to set yourself up for the long term. Like, let's go. Like, we're just spitballing here. What
Mm.
are some things you can do? I mean, it went down from as little as sell that TikTok shop watch that your son doesn't fit in. Like, list some of the items. What can we list? Okay, let's get specific. And I did. I sat there and I wrote down a tiny little journal entry about the whole situation. And then I just wrote down, like, what can we do to take action right now? And then I felt so much better. I was like, okay, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
Take notes, guys. Take notes.
Yeah.
Don't panic. Just pivot, and this is why your why is important, because you knew the cost of inaction, right? It's the opposite of your why. So you were like, nope, gotta make this work, and no one's gonna come save you guys. No one's gonna come save you. You have to take the action. You have to take the action. Which leads us to our next goal here to help you stay on track is accountability. For me, it's usually writing things down. And I realize this because for me, by writing things down and also erasing them and checking them off, that's what holds me accountable. If I don't get to check it off, then I know to prioritize that. I know that's what keeps me on track. Things like having a friend, a buddy, a mentor, a community, those are some things that you can be a part of if need be to stay accountable.
Communities are huge. And I don't know that I realized how big they were, but they are. They're everything. I mean, I attribute a huge amount of the success that I had the first, well, actually a lot. I mean, probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge amount. If I didn't show up every week, and it just remotivates you constantly.
Yeah. And it's not just business. This could be whether it's fitness, health. Jill, I think you attend a mindset workshop just as I do. And I'm part of communities where it's just all about mindset and the accountability just with that. Figure out what area in your life you may need something like that. Because like Jill said, it can change everything. It's definitely played a huge part with where I'm at today. Community and mentorship. And then the next thing here is celebrating the little wins, specifically so that you're not burning out. Everything is a win. If it's in the needle of making progress, it's definitely a win.
Yeah, I know, like making progress, like Mel said, it could be anything. Like, ooh, I recorded 3 videos today. Ooh, I mean, I was just telling Mel before we jumped on about my YouTube channel that had kind of been sitting there stagnant for easily half a year, if not almost a year. And I said I posted a video on Friday for the first time, and I have another one going on Friday, and they're small movements toward my future goal, but that's what I can handle right now for that space. And it's still a win because it is some sort of, action that has been taken. So I celebrate that win big time. So remember, big or small,
100%.
they're all a win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. When I put out something that required a lot of energy for me to put together and put it out, I feel so excited, just like we talked about in the beginning. Like, you ever just feel so excited about something? I feel it again, like, oh yeah, I'm so excited that I actually got this done. I'm super excited about it. I don't then think about the outcome, like, oh, how many views am I going to get? How many subscribers? How many followers?
Right.
You know, I don't worry about
Yeah.
that. Detached from the outcome. Because when you give value to those things, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And obviously, when you put out one video, it's not going to lead to life-changing income. It's doing it over time, and just staying a part of the process. And you know that that one video is that next stepping stone. And if you treat every action and every little win as that stepping stone, and then the next one, and then the next one, and celebrate every single one, that's how you avoid the burnout. It's when you start doing things for the outcome. I didn't get the views. I didn't get the subscribers. You're attached to the outcome, you're going to burn out.
I think I know that more now than ever. I don't know that I
Same.
ever looked at my numbers, but definitely on TikTok Shop, I'm just kind of like, here's my video, let it rip. Sometimes I do a really good video.
Universe. Take care of it, universe. Yeah.
Right. I did my part. Sometimes I don't even do a great video. It's, I don't know if it's just specifically TikTok Shop, but it is a wild card on whether or not your video is going to do well. And you don't know which one is going to perform well. You have no idea. So it's like mass quantities going out, because the more you have, the more chances you have of something happening, going viral, and making you a crazy amount of money.
But you show up anyway, right, Jill? You're still showing up. Yep. And I think we've mentioned this book before, but it's the 80-20 rule, where 20% of the things you do will yield 80% of the results. So if you put out 100 videos, 20 of those are probably the ones that are actually going to generate you sales. And the other 80 are basically practice, right?
Yeah.
And so if you go into this knowing like, okay, I just need to focus on those first 100 videos, then you're already ahead of 90% of the people that are never going to try or that are going to give up. And
5%. There's a small percent of people that actually keep going.
Yeah, it really is such a small percentage of people who are resilient. Very small percentage of them. Yeah. And I think it's because you may be listening, you may be thinking there's a secret sauce, and there isn't.
Yeah,
there's no
you're the secret sauce. It's your own brain.
Here's your mindset.
It is.
You know what's funny? I used to hear what people would call like, gurus or all these people say that, and I'd be like, no, there's something that I don't. Like, what am I supposed to be doing? But it's like, now that we've been through these waves of entrepreneurship, it's like, oh my gosh, they tell you right in your face the truth. It's your mindset.
They do. They do.
They tell you everything. That's the crazy. You hear them, and you're like, oh my god, they're really giving their millionaire secrets, which is nothing. Is like, they're not keeping anything from you.
Yeah. And they always say that, and you're like, you're lying. You didn't give me anything good.
You're gatekeeping.
Yeah, and then once you're at where we are now, and you're like, God, they weren't lying about anything. They literally told us that everything. It's just we just didn't have the capacity to really.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We didn't have the capacity to really. It's the veil, but the veil has lifted. Right, so guys, it's time. See through the veil. But before we wrap things up, this is a very important point that we wanted to touch on. Is everything we've talked about is how to not quit. Little things that you can go back to make sure that you're not quitting halfway through your goal. But when is it the right time to quit? When is it the right time to pivot? Because that's important to be mindful of as well. And so there's two questions you want to ask yourself. And the first one is this goal still meaningful to me? The second question is, am I quitting because it's hard, or am I quitting because it's no longer in alignment to me? And Jill, do you want to kind of explain the difference between quitting because it's hard and quitting because it's no longer in alignment?
Yeah. Quitting because it's hard is because you've kind of like what we said. You didn't realize you had to actually you didn't realize you had to do your own work. You thought you were just going to pay for something and it was going to all magically happen. And I know that sounds like a joke, But that is probably that 95% that Mel and I just talked about. People, it's a shocking number of people that all of a sudden realize, oh God, I had to, show up every day. I have to actually come up with my own stuff. And then quitting because you're no longer aligned. And I definitely experienced this in 2024. And we had come from something that had made us a lot of money. And it no longer fit the direction that we wanted to go. So it no longer aligned with our goals, with our dreams, with our desires of what we wanted to give people.
Because that's a burnout in itself, right? Doing something that, yeah, maybe is giving you some sort of results, but if you're just not energetically aligned to it, the person you become just is just sometimes it's very important to pivot, and you'll find yourself happier. Maybe you're not seeing the results that you once were, but you're happier, you're more fulfilled, you feel free, you feel like you're yourself, and that's who you're meant to be. And I just wanted to highlight that if you are feeling like you need to quit something, be honest with yourself if it's because it's uncomfortable. And Jill and I know how important it is to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You have everything, I promise you, like with the age information today, you have just about everything you need to take action, but nothing is going to substitute you taking the action. The universe will create with you, but you have to play your part. And if it's too uncomfortable for you, you can join the 90% of people who are going to live their life like that.
Yep. Yeah. Just getting your face on a camera is a deal stopper for what, 75% of the people, or you think even higher?
Yeah. It's the number one thing. I've done surveys, I've done polls, I've done quizzes, and thousands of people answer, and they're afraid to come on camera. And it's like, wow, what if we all realize we're all afraid of the same thing? Doesn't it make it a little less scary?
Probably not to those people.
Right. But I mean, you realize, like, it's like, okay, if this is the cost and what I'm supposed to overcome, would it be worth it if it meant that you get to live the life that you desire?
And I think now it's got to be so much easier for people to overcome that fear. Back early in the day, when only so many people were willing to do it, and you're like, oh, that's not for me, that's not for me. But now you look at the age group of people. I mean, people in their 80s get on screen. It doesn't even matter anymore. Everybody gets on screen. And here's what I found, and this is, I don't even know if this is kind of on topic with what we're saying, but what I've noticed recently is that when you are 100% true and authentic, I think the hate comments that people are so afraid of receiving are way less.
They are.
Knock on wood, my TikTok channel, no one ever says anything negative. I mean, they'll say negative things about the product, and I always respond with kindness. I never ever feed into it, and I always say, thank you for your comment. If I'm being a smart aleck, I'll say, thank you for the engagement, because you're just boosting my video, buddy. You think you're being so slick, but I mean, I just say thank you for my engagement, but you just kill them with kindness, and I just move on, and I don't ever. Yeah, I think it's considerably less when I'm not trying to talk 100%. BS about something.
And you're hitting something that I think a lot of people don't realize, but let's be honest here. When people talk about you want to be an influencer or I don't want to be an influencer, the fact that you're a human being, you are unique, you have influence. Like, let's just get that out of the way. I don't know why people want to give it this negative twist of, oh, you're trying to be an influencer, or I don't want to be an influencer. Good affirmation, bro. But you are an influencer. If you have an opinion and you have a life story to tell, you are meant to share it, because that's how you empower people. And I truly believe we're here to empower each other as humans, because I have a story, but Jill, you have a story. And how do we become better humans? Right? So how do we awaken together as humanity so people aren't in pain, so people aren't having limiting beliefs? We have to do it through sharing how we overcame things, because we didn't just wake up one day and we're, awakened to life. It was the failures, the learning lessons. And you're never going to be able to help someone if you're not willing to share. So when you realize your power, and realize that you do have influence, and it's your choice at the end of the day if you want to be a part of the game of being a creator of your reality or letting someone else assign you what you have to create in this lifetime. This is the way I see it. Take charge or let someone assign something to you.
Yep.
Yeah. Not us, Jill. Not us.
Not us. That's it for today on the Bigger Room podcast. We thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.